1985 was an absolutely legendary year for wrestling. It felt like every other week there was another unforgettable match that had fans going wild, hanging on the edge of their seats. From hard-hitting brawls to technical masterpieces, this year had it all. So let's take a trip back in time, relive the magic, and count down the top 10 wrestling matches that made 1985 one for the history books. Hulk Hogan versus Roddy Piper. February 18th, 1985. What a night for wrestling fans. It was the war to settle the score, and in the main event, two of the biggest names in WWF history went head-to-head. Hulk Hogan versus Roddy Piper. This wasn't just about the WWF Championship, this was personal. Piper had been running wild, causing chaos wherever he went. He disrespected Cyndi Lauper, attacked Lou Albano, and made it clear he didn't care about anyone. But Hulk Hogan wasn't going to stand for it. He was the ultimate hero, and he was ready to teach Piper a lesson. The stage was set, the crowd was electric, and the match was about to explode. As soon as the bell rang, Piper showed why he was one of the dirtiest players in the game. He used eye pokes, chokes, and anything else he could to stay on top. But Hogan wasn't backing down. He powered through, landing big punches and his signature moves, firing up the crowd with every comeback. Just when it looked like Hogan was going to put Piper away, chaos erupted. Piper's allies, including Cowboy Bob Orton, stormed the ring, attacking Hogan and causing a disqualification. Because of this interference, Hulk Hogan was declared the winner, retaining his WWF Championship. The match ended in madness, but it didn't stop Hogan from standing tall. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of a rivalry that would lead straight to the very first WrestleMania. Hulk Hogan and Mr. T versus Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff. WrestleMania I, the night that changed wrestling forever. On March 31st, 1985, the world watched as Hulk Hogan and Mr. T teamed up to take on Roddy Piper and Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff, in the main event of the very first WrestleMania. This wasn't just a match, it was war. Piper and Orndorff had been causing chaos for months, and they wanted to take Hogan down. But Hogan wasn't alone. He had Mr. T, the tough, no-nonsense star from the A-Team, by his side. With Muhammad Ali as a special referee and thousands of fans packed into Madison Square Garden, the energy was off the charts. As soon as the match started, Piper and Orndorff used every dirty trick they could. They cut off the ring, kept Mr. T trapped, and did everything to wear him down. But once Hogan got in, the crowd erupted. He threw punches, slammed his opponents, and turned the tide. Just when things got wild, Cowboy Bob Orton tried to interfere, but it backfired. Hogan took advantage, hit the big leg drop on Orndorff, and sealed the victory. Hogan and Mr. T won the match, sending the crowd into a frenzy. WrestleMania was born, and history was made. Ric Flair versus Magnum T.A. This was a match fans had to see. Flair was the champ, the nature boy, the man who lived in luxury and talked big. But Magnum T.A., he was young, tough, and ready to take the title. From the moment the bell rang, the crowd was on fire. Flair, as always, used his experience to take control. He played it smart, slowing the match down, strutting around, and taunting Magnum. But Magnum wasn't backing down. He had the power, the speed, and the heart to fight back. Magnum hit Flair with big punches and hard slams, nearly pinning him a few times. Every time Flair tried to escape, Magnum pulled him right back in. But Flair was the dirtiest player in the game, and he proved it. He raked his eyes, pulled the tights, and did whatever it took to stay in control. In the end, Flair found his opening. With the referee distracted, he cheated, rolling up Magnum and grabbing the tights for the decisive pinfall. Flair stole the win, keeping his NWA championship. Magnum came close, but Flair's tricks helped him survive another day as champ. Ric Flair versus Kerry Von Erich. On this emotional night, Ric Flair defended his NWA World Heavyweight Championship against Kerry Von Erich in front of over 40,000 fans at Texas Stadium. But this wasn't just about a title. It was about family, legacy, and honor. Kerry was fighting for more than himself. He was fighting for his brother, David Von Erich, who had tragically passed away just months earlier. The match was dedicated to David's memory, and the crowd was on fire, ready to see Kerry bring the gold home. As soon as the match started, Flair tried to slow things down. He used his usual tricks, strutting, taunting, and going after Kerry's legs to set up the figure four leg lock. But Kerry wasn't going to let Flair control the match. He powered through, hitting big slams and hard punches, feeding off the energy of the crowd. Flair, as always, found ways to cheat. Eye pokes, pulling the tights, even using the ropes for leverage. But on this night, it wasn't enough. Kerry caught Flair with a massive discus punch, covered him, and the referee counted the fall. Kerry Von Erich was the new NWA World Heavyweight Champion, winning the title in honor of his brother. The crowd erupted, celebrating a moment that would live on forever in wrestling history. The Rock and Roll Express versus the Russians. Mid-South Wrestling was rocking as the Rock and Roll Express took on the Russians in a battle for the NWA World Tag Team Championship. It was speed and heart versus power and brute force, and the crowd was ready for a fight. Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson, the ultimate fan favorites, brought high-flying moves and never-say-die energy. But the Russians, Ivan and Nikita Koloff, were bigger, stronger, and willing to do anything to keep their titles. From the start, the Russians took control, using their size and power to beat down Morton, keeping him away from his partner. Every time Morton tried to tag Gibson, the Koloffs cut him off, using chokes, slams, and even some dirty tactics behind the referee's back. The crowd was on edge, cheering for Morton to escape. And finally, boom, a big reversal, and he made the hot tag. Gibson stormed in, firing off punches and drop kicks, turning the match around in an instant. The action got wild, and just when it looked like the Russians might steal a win, Morton rolled up Ivan for the shocking victory. The Rock and Roll Express were the new NWA World Tag Team Champions. The crowd erupted, celebrating one of the biggest wins in tag team history, Ric Flair versus Dusty Rhodes. On this night, two of the biggest names in wrestling clashed for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. It was the Nature Boy, Ric Flair versus the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Flair was the flashy, cocky champion, living the high life. Dusty, he was the blue-collar hero, fighting for the people. The crowd was electric as the match began. Flair, as always, used his speed and technical skills to try and wear Dusty down. He focused on Dusty's leg, setting him up for the dreaded figure four leg lock. But Dusty wouldn't quit. He fought back with big punches, bionic elbows, and his unbreakable will. Every time Flair thought he had the match won, Dusty found a way to fight back. The fans were on their feet as Dusty hit Flair with a huge elbow drop. He went for the pin. The referee started the count, but Flair kicked out just in time. Then, just as it looked like Dusty had the match in the bag, the referee got knocked down. Flair's allies interfered, attacking Dusty while the ref was down. When the referee came to, Flair took advantage, rolled Dusty up, and with a handful of tights, stole the win. Flair escaped with the win, but Dusty had proved once again why he was the heart and soul of wrestling. Terry Funk versus Ric Flair. This wasn't just another title match. This was a fight between two men who lived for wrestling. On one side, the slick, stylish Nature Boy Ric Flair, defending his NWA World Heavyweight Championship. On the other, the unpredictable, unhinged Terry Funk, a man who didn't just wrestle, he brawled. From the opening bell, Funk charged like a madman, throwing wild punches and trying to turn the match into a full-on street fight. He slammed Flair into the mat, stomped him down, and even choked him against the ropes. But Flair wasn't a 16-time champion for nothing. He fought back with knife-edge chops, suplexes, and his signature dirty tricks. The battle raged on, both men refusing to stay down. Funk went for a pile driver, but Flair countered just in time. In a flash, he locked in the figure four leg lock. Funk fought, screamed, and tried to escape, but the pain was too much. He had no choice but to tap out. Flair won the war and kept his championship, but Funk proved once again he was one of the toughest men in wrestling history. Randy Savage versus Ricky Steamboat. November 7th, 1985, the Wrestling Classic. A night packed with high-stakes action, but one match stood above the rest. Macho Man, Randy Savage versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Two of the fastest, most skilled wrestlers in the world, squaring off in a battle of speed, technique, and pure intensity. From the opening bell, the energy was off the charts. Steamboat, a master of technical wrestling and lightning-fast attacks, came out strong. He used quick arm drags, deep arm bars, and pinpoint drop kicks to keep Savage off balance. The crowd could feel the momentum building, but if there was one thing everyone knew about the Macho Man, it was that he always had a trick up his sleeve. Waiting for just the right moment, Savage raked Steamboat's eyes and turned the tide. With the match now in his control, Savage slowed the pace, grinding Steamboat down with chokes, knee drops, and that signature flying axe handle off the top rope. Every move was calculated, every second was Savage's to dictate. But Steamboat wasn't going down that easy. Summoning his trademark resilience, he fought back with blistering chops, a big back body drop, and a picture-perfect crossbody that had the crowd on their feet. For a moment, it looked like Steamboat had won. But this was Randy Savage. He always had one last trick. Digging into his tights, he pulled out a foreign object, and just as the referee's back was turned, he nailed Steamboat with it. Dazed and reeling, Steamboat was easy pickings. Savage quickly rolled him up, grabbed a handful of tights for extra leverage, and stole the show. It was classic Savage, sneaky, ruthless, but undeniably brilliant. Tully Blanchard versus Magnum T.A. This wasn't just a match, it was a fight to survive. Tully Blanchard and Magnum T.A. battled in a brutal I Quit match. No pinfalls, no countouts, just raw, unforgiving violence. From the opening bell, Magnum came out swinging, slamming Blanchard into the steel and busting him open. But Tully, ever the survivor, fought back, using the cage as a weapon and matching Magnum's ferocity. Both men were exhausted, battered, and bloodied, but neither would quit. In a desperate move, Blanchard, helped by Baby Doll, grabbed a broken chair leg and tried to stab Magnum. The crowd gasped, but Magnum blocked it, took control, and pressed the jagged wood into Tully's face. Writhing in agony, Blanchard finally screamed the words no wrestler wants to say, "I quit." Magnum T.A. emerged victorious in the most violent match of his career, proving once and for all that on this night, he was the toughest man in the NWA. Ric Flair versus Nikita Koloff.
I don't think, even though the back is hurt, I don't think Flair's going to go out from it.
November 28th, 1985, Starrcade, the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Ric Flair defended his title against one of his most dangerous challengers yet, Nikita Koloff. Flair had the experience, the ring IQ, and the ability to adapt under pressure. But Nikita, he was a powerhouse, built for destruction. This wasn't just a match, it was a battle of brains versus brute force. From the opening bell, Nikita dominated, tossing Flair around the ring like a rag doll. He overpowered the champion with crushing bear hugs and thunderous slams, making it clear that he was more than ready to take the gold. But Flair wasn't a champion for nothing. Knowing he couldn't match Nikita's raw strength, he switched gears, backed off, and went to work on the big man's leg, softening him up for the figure four leg lock. When Flair finally locked it in, the crowd held its breath. He torqued Nikita's knee, pouring on the pressure, but Nikita refused to surrender. With sheer willpower, he clawed his way out and in an instant turned the tide, nailing Flair with a devastating Russian sickle. The arena erupted, sensing a new champion. But Flair, ever the ring general, managed to grab the ropes just in time to stop the count. Seconds later, Flair seized his moment. With classic, underhanded tactics, he rolled Nikita up, planted his feet on the ropes for leverage, and snatched the victory. Just like that, the dirtiest player in the game escaped with his title yet again. Starrcade 85 ended with Flair on top, but with Nikita still standing strong, the rivalry was far from over. And that wraps up the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an update.